Hey guys, this is Rick with the Digital Divide. Today I'm going to be bringing you my personal top 10 ranking of the best MCU movies, specifically for the Infinity Saga, which is a collection of 22 movies that ended with Endgame. Technically, Spider-Man Far From Home is part of the next phase of Marvel movies, along with the upcoming Black Widow, which is not out yet. So I'm just going to be ranking those 22, with Far From Home being excluded from this list. Keep in mind, guys, this is my personal opinion. It's going to be very subjective. These are just my personal top 10 rankings. At number 10, we have SpiderMan Homecoming, and I thought that this movie was a great take on the character. I thought that Tom Holland was perfectly cast as Peter Parker. This also wove in some ties with Miles Morales. It also introduced us to Michael Keaton's version of the Vulture, which apparently is going to be in the upcoming Morbius movie, starring Jared Leto. I thought the movie did a really good job building up tension towards the end, and they didn't bother retreading the whole origin story since we already know what happens and how he got his powers. So overall, great movie, number 10 on my list. At number 9, we have Thor Ragnarok, and man, do I love this movie. It's such an important movie in the MCU timeline. So much happens in this movie. Odin dies, Thor's hammer gets destroyed by Hela, Thor loses an eye and realizes that he doesn't need his hammer to conduct electricity, that the power is within him. And the end scene for this movie also sets up the events of Infinity War. This is a terrific movie. I think that director Taika Waititi really turned Thor around as a character and gave him some levity. There was some comedy introduced here, and I really dig the 80s theme. I like the dynamic between Hulk and Thor, and overall, I just think this is a fantastic entry in the series. And not to mention, of all the major things that happen, he also loses his home. Gets completely destroyed because he lets Ragnarok happen and has to find a new home for his people. But overall, this was number 9. Again, I debated placing this one higher because I love it so much, but it is number 9 on my list. At number 8, we have Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I thought this was a terrific follow-up to the original. It introduced us to the character Mantis and added both her and Gandu as official members of the Guardians team. It also introduced us to Peter Quill's father and gave us some backstory as to what his true lineage is. It also kind of worked out the sisterhood between Gamora and Nebula and fleshed that story out as well. I thought this was a great movie overall. Super sad ending. It introduced also Sylvester Stallone into the MCU, or we don't know where that's going to go yet, but great movie overall. Number 8. At number 7, we have Iron Man. Released in 2008 and starring the brilliant Robert Downey Jr., this is the movie that started the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. I applaud Kevin Feige for taking a chance on this character, but because in the comic books he was relatively well known, but in mainstream media nobody knew who Iron Man was. So they took a chance by throwing a lot of money behind this, and they kind of took him from a C-level superhero to a household name. I think the movie still holds up today. I'm not a huge fan of its sequels, but I'm a huge fan of the character, and the original movie is terrific. So this is my number 7 spot. At number 6, we have Guardians of the Galaxy, the original. I was shocked that this movie worked as well as it did. I mean, it features a talking raccoon, for Christ's sake, but wow, do the elements pull together nicely. This also introduces us to the Infinity Stones. I think this, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time those stones are explained. So I think this was a funny movie. I think it's heartfelt. I think the direction was incredible, and I think the character dynamics work really well. So number 6. At number 5, we have The Avengers. This movie is absolutely incredible. I can't believe that it worked as well as it did, considering there were so many moving parts that all had to intertwine together perfectly, and they did. I think the movie has an amazing arc, and this was the first time you got to see all of these characters interact with each other, and that was amazing. One of my favorites was when Hulk and Scarlett Johansson's character Black Widow meet, in India for the first time. I thought that was super tense. I really liked the interactions between Captain America and Iron Man, which would later kind of go into the Civil War movie as well. But overall, great movie. Still one of the all-time best movies ever made, in my opinion. At number 4, we have Captain America Civil War. This movie is incredible on so many levels. It's the first time we're introduced to Black Panther as a character. It's also the first time that Spider-Man makes an appearance in the MCU. This movie introduces the Sokovia Accords, which creates a divide and ultimately breaks the Avengers up into two distinct factions, which sets the stage for the Infinity War saga and why they fail there, because they're not united. This movie focuses on Bucky Barnes and how he was brainwashed. The dynamic between Captain America and Iron Man, where loyalties are divided, is super interesting to me. I thought the end was really potent. I thought this movie was really, really well done. Number 4 on my list. At number 3, we have Captain America Winter Soldier. This movie really changed my opinion of Captain America as a character. To be honest with you, I really did not like the first Captain America movie, and I thought he was kind of a joke in the first Avengers movie. It wasn't until the Winter Soldier that I got turned around on him as a character, and he's actually my favorite character in the MCU now. So it's just such a great movie, and why it works so well is that it's not just a good superhero movie. It's a great just action movie. It's a great stealth movie. It's a great espionage movie. It works on so many levels that you don't even have to be a comic book character to like this movie. This movie also introduced us to Bucky Barnes, which is Captain America's best friend growing up, and the main motivation behind a lot of his actions going forward in the MCU. It also introduced us to his stealth suit, which is my favorite Captain America suit. I think it looks badass. It's just such a cool-looking suit, in my opinion. He doesn't wear it enough in the MCU. But another huge thing that happens here is that S.H.I.E.L.D. gets dismantled. Up until this point, they all of these superheroes were reporting directly to S.H.I.E.L.D., and they were running the show. This movie changed the MCU going forward because S.H.I.E.L.D. gets dismantled because they find out that it's being controlled by Hydra in secrecy. So that was huge and changed the MCU forever. It also gave birth to the Sokovia Accords, because after this, they were just doing whatever they wanted to do with no supervision. This is just a great movie overall. It has some of the best action sequences, fight choreography, and car chases I've ever seen in my life. So, just a terrific movie overall. At number 2, we have Avengers Infinity War. This movie is epic on so many levels. It's the first time that Doctor Strange and Iron Man interact, and their arrogance is hilarious to watch on screen. It's also the first time that we really get to see Thanos kick some ass. Like, he is super imposing in this movie, and this movie really gives you a sense of dread, an overwhelming sense of dread that things are going to go south. And they do. I mean, it's such an action-packed movie, and also Captain America, being the badass that he is, has one of the coolest intros in the movie. This movie also gives us the opportunity to see some of the characters that were introduced later on in the MCU get to interact for the first time. For example, Thor, Iron Man, and Spider-Man all get to interact with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think the dynamic there is super interesting. Also, the fight scene at the end between Thanos and Iron Man and Doctor Strange, those three in particular, is one of the coolest fight scenes I've ever seen. The stakes are so high towards the end, and it sets up Endgame perfectly. I just think this movie as a whole might even be more entertaining than Endgame. It's just really, really well done. Yes, my friends, at number 1 we have Avengers Endgame. I mean, really, I don't know if I could have chosen any other movie. This was 10 years worth of anticipation built up into one movie, and the expectations were unbelievable. I cannot fathom how Marvel pulled this off, because this movie ties up loose ends and character arcs in a way that was seemingly impossible to do. I mean, it takes the 21 movies that preceded it, and every single character is paid attention to. There are just so many scenes in this movie that are jaw-dropping.
Avengers! Assemble.
I could go on and on about why this movie is so great and why it deserves the #1 spot. It's just such an amazing story of redemption about this group of characters that we care so much about that had given up almost completely by the end of the last movie and seemingly had no way to get out of it, and then go on this amazing adventure that revisits critical moments throughout all of the previous 21 films and then ties them into this one in a way that is just unbelievable. It just shows how great the writing team at Marvel is and how great the directors are, the Russo brothers, that took on the responsibility ever since Captain America: The Winter Soldier and have been directing most of the key titles since then. That's going to do it for me today, guys. If you like the video, give me a like. If you don't, dislike. Leave comments below if you disagree with any of my rankings and want to post your own. Thanks for watching. Bye.